Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for joining this afternoon's Cuppa Club with Beth Winton, Beth,
Hi.
and Director of Energise Barnsley. My name is Paul Pizzola, and I'm Senior Investment Manager at Ethex, where Energise Barnsley is currently running a solar energy bond offer. To set the scene, they have a very, very impressive track record of solar and battery installation projects. And as a pioneering and successful community energy group, recently won the very prestigious 2024 Ashden Award for People's Energy, which Beth will talk about. Their work so far has been carried out in partnership with their local authority and has accelerated the just transition from fossil fuels to clean energy in Barnsley, which was actually a coal mining town back in the day. So really kind of interesting to kind of get that historical aspect. Their three existing projects have saved over 2,200 tons of CO2 and collectively saved tenants over £374,000 on their electricity bills. So that's really fantastic to see that in action. And in addition to that, have generated £96,000 to fund community initiatives, which I'm sure Beth will talk about as well, that tackling climate change and fuel poverty. So you can see why this is such a fantastic project and why FX is really, really excited to be on the call and to work with Beth and her team. So, as usual, there's a little bit of housekeeping, and we'd like to let you know that the Cuppa Club is recorded, and there is a highlighted version that's available afterwards. This is not a financial promotion, and if you do need any investment or tax advice, please do talk to an independent financial advisor. So, the Cuppa Club runs usually for 30 to 45 minutes, and it's an opportunity to meet and ask questions of Beth on why Energise Barnsley is such an impactful organisation, learn more about their Ashden Award, their goals for the future and how they aim to achieve them. And importantly, what your investment is funding and the challenges it's solving and the opportunities it's creating. So please do feel free to ask questions in the chat box, which is in your Zoom channel, and we'll take questions as we go along. So before Beth introduces herself, let's start by mentioning the bond offer from Energise Barnsley is off to a terrific start on the Ethex platform. So we're really pleased to see that doing well. Funding the installation of solar panels on up to 1,000 council-owned homes in Barnsley, helping the tenants manage their electricity bills amid the cost of living crisis. So never a better time to get involved in these types of projects, whilst cutting carbon emissions from fossil fuels by an estimated 800 tonnes per annum and creating a surplus community fund again. So that's enough from me. Beth, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi Paul, and thank you so much for inviting me onto the Ethex Cuppa Club. It's a real pleasure to be here, and hi to everyone that's joined us. I'm Beth Winton. I am Project Manager at Energise Barnsley and Director at Generation Community, which is a community benefit society. Essentially, Energise Barnsley is a partnership between Generation Community, Barnsley Council and Berners-Lee Homes. So just to give an explanation to the context, but really happy to be here. Thank you, Paul.
Brilliant, excellent. So always good to know that there are other stakeholders in the community involved, like a project like this, because we know that there are always lots of moving parts, aren't there? You need to sort of collaborate in the local community to make these things work, and of course you've got a successful track record in making that happen. So can you give us an overview of what Energise Barnsley is in relation to the 1,000 solar homes project that this bond offer is funding?
Yeah, of course. So our main aim at Energise Barnsley is to reduce fuel poverty. We also want to help people that don't have access to renewable energy we want to support them in the transition to net zero. This is part of something called the Just Transition. The 1,000 Solar Homes project is what it does what it says on the tin. Essentially, we'll be installing solar panels onto 1,000 social housing homes across the Barnsley borough and over the next 18 months. That equates to roughly 3.2 megawatt of solar, and it typically reduces residents' bills by 20 to 30% a year. And it also reduces carbon emissions by 800 tonnes a year. As you've already mentioned, the project, the 1,000 Solar Homes project, is primarily funded by the bond offer through Ethex. We've also already secured a £1 million grant from the Redress Fund via the Energy Savings Trust, and £1 million from Barnsley Council, which is recycling feed-in tariff from a previous project. So we're already in a really strong position. And as you mentioned, we've already hit 1.5 million, which is really exciting. And even more exciting, we have just started installing solar panels onto the first few homes this week. So the project is already underway, which is fantastic.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's really amazing. And I think one of the things that I just suddenly joining the dots, I mean, you said saving 20 to 30% on people's energy bills. And I don't know how this relates to what's going on with the potential reduction in senior citizens' energy bill allowance. So I'm sort of thinking that's kind of really in your wheelhouse, isn't it? You're really able to help in that world too.
For sure. We always are installing solar panels onto social housing homes. Many of the residents living in them are elderly or vulnerable, so they are normally accessing those kind of benefits. So when we install solar panels on for free, they then get the free generation. And yeah, if we can reduce their electricity bills by 20 to 30%, then it makes a big difference to them. Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say heat or eat, but that is actually a reality for some people, isn't it? So
it really is, yeah.
Okay, thanks for that, Beth. So on your recent win for People's Energy at the 2024 Ashden Awards, and maybe you could provide a bit of context for the audience on why the Ashden Awards are such a big deal. Can you tell us more about why you won the award, how you won the award, what it means for Energise Barnsley and for you and Andy and your stakeholders?
Yeah, of course. So firstly, we were really proud to have won it. We were up against some other very serious projects that were having a lot of impact. The Ashton Awards are to promote things like community energy. They are a charitable fund created by the Sainsbury's Trust, I believe, and they then support community energy projects and ethical projects like ourselves. So we won the People's Energy Award, which was for the battery project that we completed in 2023. We installed batteries into 75 homes that had already received solar panels. This helped them reduce their electricity bills even more. So the solar panels were already reducing their bills by 20 to 30%. Then the batteries on top help them use the generated electricity or the stored electricity in the evening or overnight when their solar panels aren't generating. And that means that they can increase their savings even more. We also partnered with Age UK, Barnsley and National Energy Action, just to ensure that we really supported the most vulnerable in Barnsley. We also went into their homes, not only installed the tech, but we helped educate the residents. We didn't just want to dump the tech into their homes. We wanted them to really understand their energy consumption and have some behaviour change around, improving what they did in their homes. Going back to the Ashton Award, it was a great recognition of the work that we've done, not just to help social housing tenants or residents, but it also helps promote the concept of community energy to help the most vulnerable. And it has also helped us attract further investment into this project. We were also very fortunate to receive a 10,000 grant as part of the Ashton Award. And that actually goes straight into the community fund, which I can explain more about later. And they also created a video for us on the battery project, which is actually on the Ethex website underneath our profile.
Yeah, brilliant. I think your video is excellent, actually. We've just got a question in the chat box, which I'll pick up in a second. Couple more questions coming through, actually. And what I'm sort of, one of the things I think is really important about the way that you work and your model is the way that you engage would you call them customers or clients? How
we would call them residents, because they aren't customers, they're not buying anything, and they're not prosumers. So it's quite a tricky one, but yeah, I would say residents. It makes it simple.
Yeah, no. So what I think it's worth sort of expanding on a little bit is how you engage with your residents, so they get a really good quality experience. And like you said, it's not just putting the tech in; it's this wider holistic picture, and also being a friendly, approachable people that can make the whole thing work, right?
Yeah, and that is where the partnership with Barnsley Homes and Barnsley Council really comes together and really creates the importance, the impact. We have liaison officers that go into the homes and kind of warm up the residents. They explain what the options are. Not everyone wants to have solar for various reasons. There might be health conditions that mean they don't want the upheaval, but the liaison officers go in and explain what the impact will be, how it will help them reduce electricity bills, how they can utilize the energy the best, i.e. using it more during sunshine hours. And it just creates a better impact, basically, and a better feeling. They don't just feel like there's some people just throwing tech at them. It's kind of a collaboration.
Yeah, it's a genuine choice, isn't it? Which I think is really important. So, question from Daniel. The energy cost saving to the resident is estimated at 20 to 30%. Please, could you explain the practical aspects that reduces that number from 100%, i.e., why does having a panel on the roof not cover more of the tenant's usage? Great question.
Yes. So we are going with conservative figures. We don't want to overclaim. So there will be some tenants that if they're at home and they have low usage and they use the majority of their white goods and other the TV, the radio, things like that, if they use the majority of that during the middle of the day, like the classic sunshine hours, 10 o'clock in the morning till 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, if they are using it then, they will actually reduce their electricity bills even more. We're going for a conservative value because we don't want to overclaim. So yeah, and the rest gets built to the grid, the rest of the energy.
Yeah, okay. So in simple terms, the solar doesn't provide all the energy, is that correct?
No, exactly. So the resident will still use the grid to supply energy to their home. But then we did notice with the battery project where, particularly in the summer, some residents weren't using the grid at all for the peak solar months, kind of May to July. The solar generated during the day was enough to generate everything that they needed in those hours, and then the battery was so full that they didn't need anything overnight.
Okay.
So it does vary home to home, and yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Well, that's awesome. And now suddenly we're getting a lot of questions coming through. Let me see. Okay, so from Lee, he says interesting model. Or Lee says interesting model. Community in speech marks. Energy projects, sorry, aren't normally allowed to install on individual dwellings. Are you able to do that due to the partnership structure with the council, or is this not classed as a community energy installation, even though it will clearly produce community benefits? Did you get the gist of that, Beth?
Yes, I do. So, and yes, it was Lee, I believe.
Yes.
He's correct in thinking that it is the partnership with the council that allows us to install on individual homes. And as I mentioned, you know, we've got that contract signed up with Barnsley Homes. They have a housing stock of 19,000 homes. So they have a nice big pipeline for us to install solar onto as many homes as we want, as many as viable. And that, you know, the contract allows us to install solar onto individuals' homes, but they do need to be social housing homes, and we are targeting the most vulnerable. Okay,
brilliant. So Lee's got another second part to that question. I'll come back to that later. So, and then there's Oliver and Brian. I'm going to take Brian's question. Brian says, in addition to the partnership between EB and BMBC and Barnsley, how do you say it?
Barnsley. I say Barnsley Homes, but I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Sorry.
Okay. Barnsley Homes, as part of this, there's also tenant involvement, and 2 of the board members are tenants, including myself. So there is input from tenants, residents at all. Okay, sorry. So Brian,
Hi, Brian. Lovely to have you on. Yeah, I mean, on the board, as Brian said, we do have tenants, which just helps us understand from the tenants or residents side of view. And we also have 2 senior staff from Barnsley Council on the board. So we have tried to get the full round of governance from all angles.
Yeah, brilliant, excellent. I think that's really important, isn't it, to understand that this is the governance is designed into the project, so it provides those mechanisms of safeguarding and feedback that you need in these sorts of situations. So that's really great to hear from you, Beth, and also from Brian. So thanks to Brian for that.
Yeah, thank you.
And then Oliver, to what extent are your residences optimizing their devices and their electricity tariff to take advantage of the flexibility of their new kit? I think you sort of touched on that a little bit, but I don't know if there's a good example that would sort of bring that to light, Beth, that you could give us.
Yeah, so I'll start with the second part of the question, because that's a really simple answer. We don't dictate who, like the supplier of the home. So whether the home wants to be with British
That's the electricity
Gas,
tariff, isn't it? That's the electricity.
Exactly. Yeah. So we don't dictate that. The resident gets to choose that. When we did the battery project, we did actually have officers go in and look at their bills if tenants wanted to share that, and suggest other, impartial advice, but say, if you're paying 60p a kilowatt, then it would be a good idea to change your tariff. So we have educational pieces to encourage residents to go with better tariffs, but obviously it's entirely their choice. And remind me what the first part of the question was, please.
To what extent are your residents optimizing their devices?
So when the solar panels are installed in each home, we leave a leaflet behind that explains how people can use the solar energy kind of optimize it. So that might be, for example, turning your washing machine on at midday, or if you've got a battery, you do the cooking in the evening when your battery is fully stored. So we leave leaflets behind to explain how residents can utilize their energy.
Brilliant, excellent. That's great. So I'm kind of going back to the script now, and we're 20 minutes into the Cuppa Club. So I think I saw a statistic, something along the lines that in the UK, there's something, is it 15% of people live in fuel poverty?
Yeah, I think the average is 11 to 13%.
Okay.
But
no, sorry, you go.
Yeah, in Barnsley, it's actually 19%.
19.
Yeah. So it's nearly double what it is in the rest of England. Yeah, it's a really high, and fuel poverty, for those who don't know, it's where a household is spending more than 10% of their income on their fuel, whether that's electricity or gas. So it's a big portion of their income.
Yeah, and the question is, what, with that in mind, why is Barnsley the ideal location for a project like this, or is it more a case of actually you sort of had some historical links with Barnsley and it is what it is kind of thing?
It's multi-strand. Obviously, Barnsley has a really interesting history with energy. It used to be a coal mining town with heavy reliance on fossil fuels. As you just mentioned, it also has one of the highest levels of fuel poverty in the UK. But conversely, it also has one of the most proactive and ambitious councils regarding net zero. So these elements combine to make it a really perfect place to have these renewable community energy projects. The one question I always get is there enough solar is there enough sun in Yorkshire? And I can confirm yes, with previous projects. And as I've already mentioned, there are enough sunshine hours, and the ability of solar panels these days allow residents to save money. And if you're living in fuel poverty, saving 20 to 30% on your electricity bills is a big difference.
Big deal, isn't it? That's 20 to 30% you can spend on other stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, there's a question from Oliver. He says, happy to pick up offline. I think it might be a bit more technical in terms of how your residents can make even more of what they've got. So we'll connect you and Oliver after the call, so you can pick that up. So another question, I think you sort of touched on it already. What is unique about your partnership with local authorities in Barnsley? And it doesn't have to be unique, I suppose. I suppose it could be sort of generic in the sense that, can councils do this all over the place?
So yes, they can. They can do it anywhere. It just requires perseverance and the will to do it. But we are unique in that we have been partnering on these community energy projects for a decade. And our aims are all aligned. And because we've worked on various projects, we generally we work really well together. Setting up this 1,000 homes project, once we got past the legal aspect, the actual logistics of it is just working really smoothly, because we've got teams in place at Barnsley Homes and Barnsley Council just to go out, induct tenants. It's just amazing to see how well councils and housing associations can work when they've got something good to work on. So yeah, I would say it's unique in that sense.
Yeah, it's a massive success story, but also these elements could be, in any, town or city up and down the country. So
definitely, I would love to see over the next 5-10 years this replicated across the UK. That would be my dream.
Brilliant. Well, let's make it happen. That's fantastic. So kind of tracking back up the questions to Lee, he says, why this financial instrument rather than your council partner raising a climate bond stroke community municipal investment? I don't know if this is your wheelhouse, Beth, but
it's probably not quite my area of expertise, but I would say councils are incredibly strapped for cash and incredibly strapped for time and resources. So mine and Andy's role is essentially to bring them the money and the financial model and the ability to do this project, and they just bring, they bring the office workers, the liaison officers and things like that to make it happen. So we're the asset managers, the financial modelers, and the project managers.
You bring a set of expertises that council simply doesn't have,
and they don't have the time to invest or the money to invest. I'll keep politics out of this, but yeah.
Well, I mean, we do live in a political landscape. We don't need to shy away from that. That's absolutely fine. But what I'm hearing is that actually it's a partnership of stakeholders that all bring something together to make the whole thing work.
Exactly.
Okay, that's great. So let's look back at what Energise Barnsley has already achieved. Can you tell us a little bit about the renewable energy projects you've completed?
Yes, so the first project was in 2015, 2016, just before the feed-in tariff was cut. And that was, luckily we got in before they cut it. So we installed solar onto 321 social housing homes and 16 council-owned buildings like schools and leisure centres. The residents and the users of those homes and buildings have been receiving the free energy for the last 9-10 years, and they will continue to do so for the next 10 to 15 years. That was our first project. We've also installed batteries onto 150 homes through 2 pilot programs, one of which won the Ashton Award, as we've talked about. And another project was installing air source heat pumps into 40 homes, which was again another pilot. Mm-hmm. So brilliant. Yeah, that's how's
that gone? How's the pilot on the air source heat pumps gone? Was that something where there was resistance? Was it a more novel technology?
So air source heat pump, you get a mixed response. Some people love it and embrace the electricity savings, the energy savings. Other people complain because they want to be able to turn their heating up to 25, 28 degrees. And you can't do that quickly. So it's behavior change. And yeah, like I said, some people welcome it with open arms. Other people are less resistant because it does involve some changes within the home.
Yeah. That's a good thing, isn't it? Because that's the sort of the richness of the learnings that you get from kind of working with communities like this. So that's good to hear. And then could you tell us a little bit about the projects that the community fund has enabled, and maybe take a step back and why is there a community fund? How does it come about? Who manages it? The sort of levers and the pulleys that enable that community fund.
Yeah, so the community fund is essentially it's any surplus within the Community Benefit Society, which is Energise Barnsley. We're regulated by FCA, and therefore it's our mission to put anything back into the community that is surplus. We've already invested 96,000 back into the community over the last 8 years. And that's anything from street cleans. We funded a credit union project for a while. And some of the more popular projects are switching from tungsten to LED lights in social housing buildings and like leisure centres and things, just to reduce their electricity bills.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, and what does the future look like in terms of this next project and the community funds?
So we have been really lucky in that with the Ashton Award, we've got 10k extra to put into this year's community fund already on top of whatever surplus we have. And with the 1,000 Homes project, we will have £1 million to put back into the community fund over 10 years, I believe it is. I will need to double check that in the financial model.
We'll double check on that. We'll double check
Yeah.
on that. But that's not an insignificant amount of money in terms of community benefit.
Yeah.
Over 10
Yeah.
years. That's something like 100 grand a year over 10 years. And that's, yeah, pretty impressive in
Yeah.
terms of creating community benefit. Okay, so coming to the end of our Cuppa Club, why do you think the 1,000 Solar Homes project is timely in the light of our new government's pledges for the UK to become an energy superpower?
So, I mean, we're very excited that the latest government has ambitious plans for renewable energy and becoming an energy superpower. I think that would be fantastic. They're also promising to fund renewables, end fuel poverty, and achieve net zero targets, which if they can achieve even half of those things, then that would be fantastic. To be honest, it's really good to see a government coming through making these promises and catching up with what we've been doing for the last 10 plus years. So I'm very excited at what's coming, and hopefully they stick to their plans.
Yeah, brilliant. You know, yeah, no, well, let's hope they do. But I mean, it kind of having organisations like Energise Barnsley working with partners in the councils, that provides a real world roadmap for the government to, you know, say, well, look, this is how you do it. So, you know, well done to you guys for actually getting out there and making it happen. So hang on. So question from Lee: What solar panels have you selected? And maybe slightly, well, it's not controversial anymore to ask this question, is it? But is ethical sourcing a factor?
Yes. When we put out to tender for this 1,000 Solar Homes project, we shortlisted the applicants. We aimed for local installers to keep emissions down with travelling, but we also reduced it down to any installers that were using ethical solar panels, so where they could prove the source and prove that slavery hadn't been
modern slavery and child labor, and there's some
exactly
issues out there with manufacturing supply chain, and
so that was part of the process in the tender.
Okay, brilliant. So that's good. It's a really important box to tick, isn't it? Because you kind of like don't want to do all this good work and then realize you're sort of supporting bad practices in the supply chain. So, you know, well done on the due diligence there. So finally, you know, what is the need for the investment, and why should people get on board to support you? And also, a quick the Energise Barnsley bond is available in an innovative finance ISA. So that's a tax wrapper in which the interest payments are paid in a gross environment and free from tax. So just want to put that plug in there, because I don't think we highlighted that in some of our literature. But back to the question, you know, why should people get on board and support you?
So as we've mentioned, the target is 3.675 million, which is an ambitious target, but we are pretty sure we can do it. We want bond investors to help us deliver the 1,000 Solar Homes project. That's the simplicity of it. And the more we raise, the more we can install solar panels and the more we can reduce fuel poverty. We've already raised 1.5 million, which is fantastic. And a benefit for bond investors, they will receive 6% returns a year over the next 2 years. And I think the kind of people that are online listening to this will feel good about the fact that they're investing in something that's a forward-looking project. it helps alleviate fuel poverty, it helps achieve net zero targets, and it advances these community energy projects. So I think it's a great offering, if I do say so myself.
No, well, I mean, it's got a lot of the hallmarks of a really good quality offer in terms of, you've got a track record, you've got great partners, the impact's very visible, it's a sound business and financial model, and, technology is well known. So in a way, what is not to like? So congratulations on putting this together. It's absolutely fantastic, and 70%, 75% of the way to the minimum already, which is a brilliant achievement in a relatively short space of time. So I want to say thanks to Beth. Unfortunately, Andy couldn't be here. He's probably off kite surfing somewhere. He needs a bit of a well-earned break, so I know he works incredibly hard.
Yes, he has.
Yeah, so that's fantastic. So thanks again to Beth. Thanks to the audience for dialing in, and just remains for Beth to say her goodbyes.
Yeah, well, thank you, Paul, for inviting me onto the Ethex Cuppa Club, and any questions, feel free to get in touch. And really great to be here today, so thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.